everybody talks about Ross Chastain nowadays. You put Ross Chastain in a Gen 5, Gen 6 car, and he's in the garage at lap 50 because you can't touch people with those cars, or you couldn't hit them like they do now.
That was a good point. He'd have been wrecked out way early.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't have been wrecked out. He'd have wrecked himself out.
Right, knocked the radiator out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the Kenny Wallace Conversation, brought to you by JEGS.
What is your opinion on the state of NASCAR right now?
Holistically, I'm fairly neutral. There's some things I really like. There's some things I really dislike. So holistically, I'm fairly neutral. I think there's potential for a big upswing in the next 5 to 10 years with a lot of things that are going on, but we have some big challenges in front of us. And some of those are in our control, some of us aren't. The ones that aren't in our control, the environments around us, whether it be politically, or just generational, those are big challenges that I think we need to be realistic about, that we can't control and that we have to learn to navigate. I think there's a lot of really passionate motorsports fans, but we're losing some of the car generation, so to speak. There's a funeral every day right now that is heavy on our fan base, and that's going to be a big challenge for us. We have to grow into new audiences, which that makes me nervous. It really does. I think NASCAR is doing the right thing, shoring up some of the track agreements and different initiatives they have with cars and so forth. But there's some big challenges with the OEMs as well, where we're going there. So I think holistically, I'm neutral. I like the investments that Jim France is making. I like the fact that there's a clear kind of present leader with Jim France. That's exciting for me. But the success here for NASCAR and for motorsports as a whole is going to have to be earned. It's not going to be given. And there's a lot of work to do in front of us.
If we're to believe half of it, article comes out that looks like TV revenue is going to go up. They're going to involve some streaming with Amazon. I do know this to be fact because you and I know people in the industry and they're like, yeah, So it caught me off guard. Unless they're lying, it appears there's going to be more TV money. Did that catch you off guard that there'll be more money in TV for NASCAR?
No, the sports landscape is one of the things that's the most upside for the sport, or the most interesting. The TV landscape, it was only 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago now, that Seinfeld went off the air. Almost 100 million viewers watched the last episode of Seinfeld.
Wow.
Nobody watches TV shows anymore. Not
You're
like
right.
that. They don't watch TV shows. And so these networks, the only thing people really watch is sports. You have to keep in mind, networks make their money, and I know you know this, Kenny, but maybe the audience doesn't. They make their money off of selling advertisements. They got subscriptions if they're cable, advertisements if they're broadcast. And so they need ratings to do that, both of those. And the only thing that really generates consistent and trustworthy ratings right now are sports. And NASCAR is in a prime position with being a sport that generates a consistent deliverable in months where most sports don't, by the way. Most sports are pretty dead in the summer and even somewhat in the spring. So NASCAR's ability to deliver a significant rating to a network in those periods of times is extremely valuable and becoming more valuable by the day as the entertainment landscape changes. So it's one of the opportunities. I'm a big believer in SWOT analysis, Kenny: strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. If you look at the SWOT analysis for motorsports right now, the biggest opportunity is the media landscape. And NASCAR is doing a great job of, I think, working through that opportunity to maximize it. Streaming is going to be a part of it. I hear from fans all the time about streaming and I'm not so sure about this. No, this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. You might not see it now, but a package that has a little bit of streaming and a little bit of broadcast in it is going to be tremendous for the consumer and ultimately the sport itself. Because right now, I don't know what your bill is, but I look at my bill for cable and for satellite internet and I go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I only watch 3 channels. If I could just buy the 3 channels I watch, it'd be way cheaper.
Yeah.
And that's what streaming is going to allow you to do. And when you combine that with some broadcast, it'll be ultimately a better viewing experience at home for less money. And so I would encourage all of our fans to try to think open-minded about it. I think, yes, there will be a conversion, and it will probably get a little bit difficult and challenging, but I'm excited about this landscape for our sport.
Man, I'm going to tell you what, you just educated the hell out of me. I consider myself not an idiot. I want to go back to that SWOT. Slow that down right there. Give me those 4 letters again. What is that?
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a form of business evaluation that is fairly popular, where you kind of take the pulse of where you're at. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What do we got around the corner? It's a great opportunity for us to strike on. And what's the threats around the corner that we need to build a defense against? It's a lot of how I run my businesses.
Yeah, I really like that. And thanks for helping me. I've learned from Dick Trickle, Rusty Wallace, Dale Sr. I'm learning from you, but one thing's for sure, I've learned from all of them that life changes, and you're learning every day. You just taught me a different way to look at why there'll be more money in TV, because in the summertime, let's face it, all there is baseball. And I love baseball, but you bring up a good point. So number 2 of this 3-pronged question is the next gen car. What is your opinion of the next gen car?
There are parts I like about it, and there's parts I don't like about it. I really like, this is my favorite part about the next gen car, Kenny. Finally, we have a car run side by side. If you remember the Gen 6 car, the Gen 5 car, the Gen 4 car, you run side by side, the inside guy would get loose and wipe out the outside guy. I hated that because I felt like it killed the racing. And I love the fact that you can run side by side with this car and it doesn't just spin out. I love that about it.
Tires are wide on these new cars, wide.
Yeah, but it's not the tire, it's the aero, Kenny. It's the aero on the car that allows the car to run side by side. And I'm so thankful that we fixed that. That was a big, big win with this next gen car. But then there's concerns I have. I don't like the fact that, some of my fellow drivers have gotten hurt. I don't like that. I don't want to see drivers get hurt. I don't like the fact that the car's a tank and that you can run over people and keep going. Because I think that's changed the dynamics of the racing. And everybody talks about Ross Chastain nowadays. You put Ross Chastain in a Gen 5, Gen 6 car, and he's in the garage at lap 50 because you can't touch people with those cars, or you couldn't hit them like they do now.
That was a good point. He'd have been wrecked out way early.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't have been wrecked out. He'd have wrecked himself out.
Right, knocked the radiator out.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't like that. We went too far. We went from a car that was probably a little too fragile to now a car that's like, hey, I can bounce this thing off the wall and just keep on trucking. I think that's probably a little too far.
Yeah. So the last one, and this is the one I think, I'm just going to throw my little 2 cents in here. This is the one that has made NASCAR so popular right now. I feel like we're trending upwards in NASCAR. Is these fines and penalties are unprecedented. People love, the smash mouth sport. I get it. We're technical. We like analytics and computers and all this, but I've taken some polls. Brad, these people just love, Ross Chastain, smashing Noah Gragson upside the face. Now it's ugly. Me and you don't want to fight. What is your opinion of the fines of the cars and the penalties of the sport in totality?
Well, the fines on the cars are necessary to get control of the garage area. And without that, the business model doesn't work because the teams will just invest in cheating. And the more we invest in cheating, the tougher it gets to make this sport make any sense for us to be a part of long term. And that's not good for anybody. Ultimately, NASCAR needs to be about putting a great driver and a great team together and going out and kicking butt. And not, hey, who's got the best fab shop that knows how to cheat the parts the best. And for a long time, that's what the racing was to some degree. And some people agree with that, some people disagree with that, but it can't stay that way. And so NASCAR's only way to keep that from happening is just to clobber these teams. And we've been clobbered. We deserve to be clobbered. And more teams are going to get clobbered. Hey, we might even get clobbered again ourselves. I hope not, but maybe. But they're changing the culture in the garage. And these penalties, they leave a mark. And they leave team owners and car chiefs and team managers saying, hey, no, we're not doing that anymore. And that's really important for our sport. So I think that's been quite healthy. You know, the penalties for intentionally wrecking each other, I think those have been healthy too. Um, you know, NASCAR has this big challenge, Kenny, of we set the precedent for other forms of motor racing too. And when NASCAR lets intentional wrecking and things like this go by and turns a blind eye, it starts to happen in other divisions. And so I think we have to never forget that.
Yeah. Wow. Pretty incredible. I like what you had to say because I feel like you're the new, Jeff Burton was always the mayor and he would talk like a politician, with his thumbs up in the air. But yeah, right. But I really feel like you're so well spoken. I know you never want to, but I feel like you could lead NASCAR. And it's been a pleasure talking with you. I want to thank you so much for coming on Kenny Conversation. And, it's been awesome. Now I'm going to be 60 in August. So I've kind of watched you. I've watched your movie. You've come out of Rochester, Michigan. And I watched you with that checkbook, buy an ARCA car and become one of the greatest drivers. And still to this day, in a fun, loving way. I just loved it when you drank that cold Miller Lite, baby, and celebrated that championship.
Well, I'd like to do it again, Kenny. That's my goal. I want to win another championship. I want to do what Tony did. I want to win as a driver and owner, and I want to stand in victory lane and with all the cameras and all the media around me, and they're pulling at you, and I just want to sit down and drink a beer. I think that would be great with my wife and my kids and my friends and my family and the team around me. That's the day that I live for. It's the day I dream of, and I'm trying to make that a reality.